Hello everyone, I'm Andrea, aka Mrs. C, and today I'm going to teach you all how to draw cats or dogs like Laurel Burch. Now, who was Laurel Burch? Laurel Burch was an American artist and businesswoman and designer. She was born in California in 1945 and passed away in California in 2007 after a long battle with osteoporosis, which she discovered she had at a young age. Now, while she would later find great success, her life didn't start out that way. When she was just a teenager, her family wasn't able to support her, and she had to work a series of jobs, like as a line cook or as a maid. Her sister even had to work as a seamstress at a young age. She started designing and creating her own jewelry when she was in her early 20s, using many different and random items that one would find on the street, like animal bones, coins, pieces of thread, and metal. And she would shape the metal using a hammer and a frying pan. Eventually, people began to really like her jewelry and started to buy them from her. Now, eventually, her artwork would become so popular that in 1971, Vogue models would be featured in the magazine wearing her necklaces and chokers. Resources have stated that the reason why Laurel Burch likes to draw and paint and create artwork with cats is because she encountered a lot of stray cats during her travels for work, and she wanted to create some beautiful, bright imagery featuring the cat. Now, let's take a look at the elements of art that you may be learning about in your art class and you've seen posted on the wall, and let's take a look at Laurel Burch's artwork. What elements of artwork do we see a lot in her imagery? Do you see form? Not really, because as beautiful as the cats and dogs and horses we see pictured here, we don't really see any attention or attempts to make the artwork look three-dimensional. What about texture? Well, possibly. You do kind of get a spiky or somewhat furry texture from some of the patterns, but texture might not be the strongest element that is used in her artwork. What about line? Definitely. As you all know, line is the basic building block for a lot of imagery, and there's a bunch of lines that are used to make the patterns and also to create the shape of the animals in her artwork. Now, what about color? Oh, yes, definitely. Just take a look at the bright, beautiful rainbow of colors that we see in all of her work. Now, what about shapes? Yes, absolutely, because shapes are being repeated to make some amazing patterns, which is a principle of art that we see in all of her animals and also her background. Now, what about value? Not really. Value is how light or dark a color can be, and also how the light can affect an object. Does it look like there's any sense of light or darkness in any area of this picture? Nope. So what we're going to do is get some 8 by 11 inch white paper just to start. Though if you are one of my in-class students, I encourage you to start with a scrap piece of paper to practice before you touch the nice paper. You're going to need a pencil, a sharpener, an eraser, and then later on you are going to need crayons or oil pastels if you like those better, and watercolors. Let's find a comfortable place to work and get started. Now, you don't have to do both the cat and the dog like what I'm doing. You can choose to just do one or the other, or you can do both. To make the face for both the cat or the dog, draw what looks like a backwards J, then a regular J. This is going to make the sides of the face and also make the cheek. Now I'm going to make the cat and the dog look like they're pressing faces, kind of like they're buddies, and I'm going to draw the face that will be for my dog right up against it. Now I'm going to draw 2 upside down V's along with a slightly curved line to make the top of my cat's head and to make the ears. Next, draw a flat but slightly curved line to make the top of the dog's ear, and then we're going to draw some floppy ears that look like they are waving or billowing in the wind. I'm going to draw what looks like a slide line and then draw a wiggly line underneath to make the bottom. Now I'm going to draw 2 wiggly lines to show where the ear is flopping from the other side of the head. Next, I'm going to draw some triangles inside the cat's ears and then draw U-shaped lines to make the lower lip for both animals. If you draw a line down this U-shaped line, you can make a tongue for the dog. I drew a letter V for the cat's nose and an oval for the dog's nose. But then take a look here. I drew some candy cane shaped lines to make the bridge of the nose and what would be the eyebrow for the animals. Now, this kind of gives the animals a bit more of a human-like quality. This is something we see a lot of in Laurel Burch's artwork. They have slightly more human features than what we would see in real life. Next, we're going to draw the front paws for both animals. I'm going to draw a line that starts under the insidemost cheek that comes down and curves up, kind of like a fish hook. Then I'm going to draw another line that comes down and comes up, kind of like a second fish hook. Kind of looks like a tall, skinny W right now, but with one side shorter than the other. Repeat these steps on the other side for the dog if you are doing both animals, of course. Next, for my cat, I'm going to draw the arch of the back by drawing a curved line that starts somewhere behind where the eye is, curves down, and makes the bottom. Now, for the cat's tail, I'm going to draw what looks like a backwards S. However, that looks like a rat's tail. To fix that, we're going to draw a line that curves up and then draw another line that runs parallel to the first backwards S that you made and then connect it to the bottom, close it. Next, I'm going to draw the back for my dog. It's going to come out from behind his ear, make that curved bottom. Now, the dog is going to have a very different tail. I'm going to draw what looks kind of like a backwards C, and then I'm going to draw some funky lines, kind of like a cross between a wave and a zigzag line to make the tail look fluffy. Now for the eyes, you're going to draw what looks like a rainbow line and then draw a somewhat flat, somewhat curved line at the bottom to make a football shape for each eye. Now draw circles to make the pupils inside the eyes. You can make it look like your cat or your dog is looking straight at the viewer or at something that we don't see off the paper. That's your choice. Let's remember that Laurel Burch fills her animals with beautiful patterns in her art. So we need to think of as many different patterns as possible. First, for my cat, I'm going to draw some triangles over the chest and then also in between the legs and all over the back. Then I'll draw some tiger-like stripes on the legs that are wiggly lines that go back and then forth, coming from both sides of each leg. Next, I decided to draw some polka dots on the tail. I made some half polka dots on the side rather than just drawing a full polka dot that's visible in the middle. Now, you don't have to do the exact same patterns that I'm doing. You could do flowers, you could do hearts, you could do a flaming pattern if you wanted to, or normal horizontal or zigzag stripes. I want you to get as creative as possible. Next, I drew some funky wavy spots with other spots inside for my dog. You could also change this so that the spots kind of look like flowers or maybe even clouds. If you want to draw any clouds that are on your animals, I like to use a number 3 and draw a bunch of number 3s in a circle to make cloud patterns. For my dog, I decided to add some freckles on the cheeks to make the puppy look a little cuter. And then after doing that, I added some whiskers on my cat's cheeks, only I didn't just draw simple lines, which you can do. I decided to draw some bold triangles that I could color later on. If you want to make your U-shaped line a tongue, draw a vertical line down the middle. However, if you want to make your lower lip out of the U, then draw another U inside. I would show you what this finished drawing looks like after I color the animals with crayon and then paint the background with watercolor. However, I started maternity leave before I got the chance to finish this, so this drawing is sitting unfinished in my classroom at school. So here's what I'm encouraging my students and anyone else who's doing this for fun to do. What you should do is take your crayons or your oil pastels, color in your dogs and your cats as neatly as possible. Use as many different colors as possible to fill the wonderful patterns that you put on their bodies and even their faces. And just use the crayons not to color in the entire background, but add little things like stars or clouds, but leave most of the background blank. And then when you are finished, you will prepare your space for using watercolors. Make sure that you have a cup of water and a paper towel and wipes handy to clean up any messes, and create beautiful, colorful backgrounds using your watercolor paint. One idea I will give you all is that you don't have to color the entirety of your animals. You can just use the crayons and oil pastels to outline the lines that you drew to make the faces, and color in the symbols that make the patterns, and also outline the bodies. Then use the watercolors to fill your animal. Be sure to have good craftsmanship with your final projects, so don't leave any white spaces, and be sure to put your name on your artwork before you start painting. With that being said, have fun, and I look forward to seeing what you create.